Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
What's up, everybody, and welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour on this Football Friday. And it's Cowboys week. I'm getting fired up. We got about 48 hours to go, but it doesn't get much better than a Cowboys-Eagles game that has huge ramifications across not only the NFC East, but the entire NFC. Sorry we're a couple minutes late. I was filling in for John McMullen on Birds 365 with Jody Mack. Saw some of you guys there. But we are now here for the Power Hour. Best hour in Philadelphia sports, I hope. At least for me. Really enjoy spending time with my Power Hour crew. Let's see who we got in the house today on this Football Friday. We're going to jump in and go a deep dive on the Eagles and the Cowboys. We'll take a look around the whole NFL this weekend. And I know I'm going to make some people happy. We got to talk a little Flyers. We got to talk a little bit Flyers, man, winning their third in a row. But let's get a little roll call from my Power Hour crew. Wine Niners Wine in the house. Bowner Johnson. Twiz still rocking that Niners logo. James Jones, good morning. Eric Gallagher, what's going on? Good to see a lot of the Power Hour crew. I know more people are strolling in here on this Football Friday. But guys, listen, it's Football Friday. It's Cowboys week. We're going to talk a lot about the NFL. We're going to talk a lot about the Eagles and the Cowboys. But we got to take just a couple of minutes. Just bear with me if you're not a hockey fan. Just a couple of minutes and talk about our Philadelphia Flyers. Another big win last night for the Fly Guys. Third in a row. They win 4-1 over the Arizona Coyotes. And for those people who don't follow hockey, Coyotes got a good team this year. They had won 5 games in a row against all 5 of your last Stanley Cup champions. And the Philadelphia Flyers go into Arizona, win 4-1. And I told you guys earlier this week on the show that if you stop paying attention to this Flyers team, now is the time to go back. I get it. No one's going to call you a bandwagon fan. They sucked for a long time. They were not fun to watch for a long time. But this team is fun to watch. They are 9-3-1 in their last 13 games. They're 4-1-1 in their last 6. And they're sitting there at 14-10-2, second place in the Metropolitan Division. They're 11-1 when they score first. They lead the entire NHL in shorthanded goals, and they had another one last night from Travis Konechny. This team plays a really good brand of hockey. I still think they're lacking that sniper. They're still lacking some talent on this team. But Tortorella has them playing hard. They're winning games. They're fun to watch. And they have a real shot at bringing some NHL playoffs back to Philadelphia, which there's nothing better, man, in the summertime than going to an NHL playoff game down in South Philadelphia to see our Flyers. So they play again Saturday night. If you guys want to tune in, they're at Colorado. It's a 9 o'clock game. But it's a Football Friday. We're not going to spend a lot of time on those Fly Guys. But if you were ever a Flyers fan and you stopped watching because of the ridiculous product they were putting on the ice, now's the time to go back. Now is the time to go back. This is a fun team to watch, and it's not an over-exaggeration to say they have a real shot at making the playoffs. But it's Football Friday. We'll stop talking hockey. I know everybody's not hockey fans in the chat, but it is our Football Friday. So let's just take a look around the NFL before we jump into our breakdown of the Eagles and the Cowboys. Let's take a look around the NFL. I don't know if anybody tuned in. If you're in the chat, let me know. Did you watch that Thursday night football game last night? Thursday night football. It seems that 90% of the games that they put on are just boring matchups. And last night, you had Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots at 2-10 going up against Mitch Trubisky and the 7-5 Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure Amazon Prime was fired up for that matchup. Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky. I'm sure they were real excited for their new streaming service of football games on Thursday night to get that matchup. Actually turned out to be a decent game. Patriots win 21-18. Came out to a 21-3 lead and then almost blew it at the end of that game. I'm seeing some people. Twiz says, I was sleeping by 7, woke up at 1 from the dogs wanting to go out. Twiz going to bed early, man, 7 o'clock. You better not go to bed at 7 o'clock on Sunday night, Twiz. Better get a nap in during the day. It's going to be a late one on Sunday night, especially for all of us who do the JAKIB Sports Eagles postgame shows down at Ocean. By the time that game ends and then we do the postgame show and then get home from Atlantic City, it's a late night. But that drive home from AC will be a lot sweeter with an Eagles win. But we'll get into that game. I'm going to give you my prediction at the end of the show. I want your guys' predictions at the end of the show as well. And I see more people checking in. Jared Ford, good morning, my man. Good to see you. Wayne, the average gamer, never watched the game. It seemed like a boring setup. It was. It really was. But a couple of things to take from that game. Pittsburgh Steelers now, 2 weeks in a row, have blown opportunities to get themselves back into the conversation of potentially winning the AFC North. Excuse me, not winning the AFC North. They're not catching the Ravens. But they had a real shot to get a wild card. They're battling another AFC North opponent to get in, and that's the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns sit at 7-5. Steelers now dropped to 7-6. But you look at the last 2 games for this Steelers team, and they've lost to the Arizona Cardinals and now the 3-10 New England Patriots. And I saw a stat last night after the game that the Steelers are the first team ever to be over 500 to lose back-to-back weeks to teams that are 8 games under 500. So real missed opportunities for the Steelers. And I get it. Mitch Trubisky, they don't have Kenny Pickett, but some missed opportunities there. But let's take a look around the rest of the NFL, because the beautiful thing about a Sunday night game for our Philadelphia Eagles is you get to sit around all day watching all the other games, just waiting for kickoff, Eagles-Dallas. Now, I will say, at a certain point, you're going to stop watching the games and you're going to turn on the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel for our pregame show, where you'll get me and Mark Farzetta and Seth Joyner. So be sure to check that out, Eagles Game Day, right here on the JAKIB Sports Network. Not sure what time we're rolling. It's an 8:30 game, 8:15 game, probably around 6 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. Xander, my producer, I'm sure will put up the link for that early in the day on Sunday. So be sure to check that out. But the rest of the day, you could watch some football. You could watch some Red Zone. So let's see what we got. If there's any good games on at 1 o'clock tomorrow, or Sunday, not tomorrow. So you got the Ravens and the Rams. That's an interesting one. I think the Ravens obviously should win that game. They're 7.5-point favorites, but that game's got a lot of AFC playoff seeding. Just like the Philadelphia Eagles are battling for that 1 seed with the San Francisco 49ers and the Detroit Lions and even the Dallas Cowboys. Ravens got to keep winning. As of right now, they are the number 2 seed because they lose the tiebreaker with the Miami Dolphins, who sit at 9-3 as well. And then right on their heels, Kansas City 8-4, Jacksonville Jaguars 8-4. And I see Bounder Johnson saying the Rams are not winning a 1 p.m. game, and you may be right on that one. That's a tough spot for them because they got to go not only to play Baltimore, who's obviously a tough team, but they got to do it at 1 o'clock on the road. So I agree with you. That's a tough spot for the Rams. Browns probably win that game. You also have battle of 2 bad teams, but they're still fighting for a division, and that's the Bucs and the Falcons. The NFC South is such a weak division. Such a weak division, and it was last year too. But you see that game, the 5-7 Bucs are still fighting to maybe win the NFC South. You look at the playoff picture right now, you got the Falcons at 6-6. The Bucs would not make the playoffs as a wild card, but they got a shot to catch the Falcons. So that's kind of like a playoff game. But you got the Bucs are in Atlanta, and it's only a 1.5 point spread. Falcons are only favored by 1.5. So that'll be interesting to see what happens in that game just for playoff seeding. But you talk about playoff seeding, and I know that we want the 1 seed. I want the 1 seed as an Eagles team. But as we're talking about the NFC South, just take a step back for a second and think about the team that doesn't win the number 1 seed. You're probably going to get to play the NFC South team. And I'm talking about the 1 seed in the NFC East. So we're fighting for the NFC East. I want to see the Eagles win the NFC East, obviously, and have a home game. But you think about it, if the Dallas Cowboys don't win the NFC East, they're probably going to play the NFC South champ. Now, that game will be on the road, but you know they're going to be favored in that game. If the season ended today, the Dallas Cowboys would play the Atlanta Falcons. So they're probably going to win that football game. So then as the number 1 seed, you would get the Cowboys most likely in the playoffs, coming off of their win over the NFC South, and then the 2 and 3 teams would play each other. So if this Philadelphia Eagles team does in fact get the number 1 seed, we are headed for potentially 2 great playoff games. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but you're headed for maybe 2 great playoff games where you would get, if you win the 1 seed now, you would get Dallas right after it, right after your bye, and then you'd probably have the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. So this game on Sunday is a big game. The game last week was a big game, but it's amazing that this thing could line up for the Philadelphia Eagles to get back to a Super Bowl. They'd have to beat the Cowboys and then the 49ers. Not easy matchups, but man, wouldn't that be sweet? Wouldn't it make it that much sweeter? I know we all just want to get to a Super Bowl, but how sweet would it be to get there going through those 2 teams? But let's keep looking around the NFL, staying with the 1 o'clock games. You got the Houston Texans as 3.5 point favorites against the New York Jets. What a dumpster fire the New York Jets are. We didn't really talk about it on this show. I talked about it on Sports Take with Rob Ellis about all this drama now about them wanting to give the job back to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson doesn't want the job back. Now he does want the job back. A disaster. An absolute disaster. And if you guys remember when the Philadelphia Eagles were talked about maybe having interest in moving up the draft board to get Zach Wilson, you never know around the draft what conversations are real and what isn't. But thank God the Philadelphia Eagles didn't do anything to get anywhere near Zach Wilson. The Jets, their general manager, Joe Douglas, their head coach, Rob Saleh, ruined their season by sticking with Zach Wilson as much as they have, because they had a shot if they got even average quarterback play. And I said this in like week 3 that the Jets should have been looking somewhere via a trade or a free agent to just pick somebody up to stay relevant, because now you look and Aaron Rodgers had a shot to come back. Ridiculous from the Jets. But big game for the Texans. We'll be interested to see how C.J. Stroud, the rookie sensation, does against that Jets defense. And it's a big game for the Texans. 7-5, still trying to catch the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC South. But they're sitting there as your last wild card spot. And that's probably the team. I don't know about you guys, but looking at the AFC, there's 2 teams that I root for in the AFC right now. One of them, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We've talked about it before because of Doug Peterson. I will always root for Doug Peterson, unless, of course, he comes over to the NFC. Then we're not rooting for Dougie P. But I'll always root for Doug Peterson. But the other team that I'm rooting for is this Houston Texans team. The biggest surprise for me, when you look from a positive perspective going into the NFL this season, has to be the Houston Texans. They got a rookie head coach in DeMeco Ryans. You got a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. You have a team that won, 3 or 4 games last year, 3 or 4 games the year before, and they're sitting here at 7-5. C.J. Stroud leads the NFL in passing yards. Would love to see the Houston Texans make the playoffs. So they're in New York. Texans are a 3.5-point favorite. And I think they're going to dominate the Jets because Zach Wilson's back on the field. And that guy stinks, man. Absolutely stinks. Another big game, and this one has an impact on the Philadelphia Eagles, is the Detroit Lions are on the road in Chicago. Now, a couple of weeks ago, on this show, I gave the prediction that I thought that the Chicago Bears could have gone into Detroit and beaten the Lions, and they almost pulled it out. They blew it. But now this game's on the road in Chicago. Don't count out the Chicago Bears in this game. Lions are favored by 3.5. This is a big game for the Detroit Lions. And we're going to talk about the Eagles, obviously, in the next segment. And I just said it on Birds 365 that you're going to learn a lot about this Philadelphia Eagles team this week and how they bounce back from that loss in what I think is a must-win. But I think you're going to learn a lot about this Detroit Lions team this week, too. Because they're still sitting there with a shot at the 1 seed at 9-3. And when you looked at their schedule, when you looked at the Detroit Lions schedule a few weeks ago, the reason we were concerned about the Lions wasn't because they necessarily had the best team in the NFC, but it was because they had the easiest schedule, at least how it looked a few weeks ago. But then they lose on Thanksgiving to the Green Bay Packers. They almost blew it last week against the New Orleans Saints, and now they have to go on the road against a division opponent in the Chicago Bears. I think you're going to learn a lot about the Detroit Lions. And if the Lions lose this week, probably eliminates them from the 1 seed conversation. That would give them 4 losses. And we've talked about it before. I think the 49ers at most lose 1 more game. I think they have a real potential to win out. The San Francisco 49ers do. So I think if the Lions lose this game in Chicago, division opponent, they may be eliminated from the number 1 seed conversation. And it could happen. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'm taking the Bears and the points at home against the Detroit Lions. Then another 1 o'clock game. Another team I root for a little bit in the AFC because of their Eagle connections. The Indianapolis Colts. Sitting there in a playoff spot. Also fighting for the AFC South. Gardner Minshew. Minshew mania running wild in Indianapolis with Shane Steichen who we all knew was a good coach, was a great play caller here in Philadelphia last season. They got a big game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who we were all ready to write off the Cincinnati Bengals. But what a game Jake Browning had last week for them. So that's an interesting game. Bengals are actually favored in that game with Jake Browning as a 2-point favorite. So that'll be a good game as well. See what Minshew Mania can do against the Cincinnati Bengals. So some good 1 o'clock games. Keeping it going. These games aren't as good. You got the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. Could not care less about that game. And I talked about the dumpster fire the New York Jets are. The Carolina Panthers and their owner, Dave Tepper, seem like an organization that you would want no parts of being involved with all the drama that's coming out of Carolina and all the stuff that's being said after Frank Reich was fired and Deuce Staley was fired and all the things that are going on. So if you have some time on your hands, just read some articles about the disaster that the Carolina Panthers are. And then finishing out the 1 o'clock slate, my man Dougie P, Jacksonville Jags, 3-point dogs against the Cleveland Browns. That game is in Cleveland. This is a big game for both teams. That's a good game. That's a good matchup to see what Doug Peterson does. Trevor Lawrence play. It looked like a bad injury, but he's been back on the field. That's a big game going against that Cleveland Browns defense. Both teams trying to vie for playoff positioning here. And that's a matchup you could see in the playoffs as well. So some good matchups at 1 o'clock, some bad games as well, like you get at this time of year. And let's see at 4 o'clock what we got going on. Biggest game for the Philadelphia Eagles to worry about. The Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, that game is in San Francisco, or should I say Santa Clara, at Levi Stadium. Is it still called Levi? Any 49ers trolls? It's funny, we don't see the 49ers trolls as much today. Did they finally move on? Have our 49ers trolls finally moved on, or are you guys still here? And I told you, troll away. You've earned it. And if you guys follow me on Twitter at Bill Colarulo, for whatever reason, my prediction video between the Eagles and the 49ers got into some sort of 49er algorithm yesterday. And it is just getting shared like crazy by 49ers fans. And I'm getting tweeted at, and they're making all these comments. So I don't know what happened. I don't know how my tweet got into a 49ers algorithm, but it's in a 49ers algorithm right now, and they are just running wild with it. But hey, troll away. You've earned it. But the 49ers are 11-point favorites at home against the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seahawks aren't a bad team, but man, that's a little disrespectful. But I'm taking the Niners in that game, and we've talked about it. I think the Niners win out. I really do. I think the 49ers finish 14-3, and that's why this is such an important game for the Philadelphia Eagles. They cannot afford to lose another game. Unless, of course, the Niners lay an egg somewhere along the line, but it doesn't look promising. Other 4 o'clock games, Minnesota Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not really that interested in that game. I know the Vikings are still vying for a wild card spot. As the season ended today, they'd be in the playoffs. Looks like Josh Dobbs is getting the start at quarterback there. Then you got the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an interesting game for the Buffalo Bills. 6-6. Kansas City 8-4, just lost to the Green Bay Packers. And unfortunately, if you're a Chiefs fan, I think we're learning some things about this Chiefs team. I don't think this Chiefs team's going back to another Super Bowl. When the season started, a lot of people were predicting, and I could have seen it, a rematch. Eagles-Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. I just don't think this Chiefs team is good enough. I know they have a good defense, but that offense, even with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they just don't have a good enough offense, in my opinion, to make it back to the Super Bowl. You never know with Mahomes. He's the X factor. I just don't think they're as good as they were last season. But you look at this game, and it's in Kansas City at Arrowhead. Tough spot for Buffalo, but it's a must-win game for the Bills. I mean, they're sitting there 6-6. They're on the outside looking in for a playoff spot. This is a must-win for the Buffalo Bills. And if you look at the line in this game, I think it's a Buffalo Bills line. Chiefs are only favored by 1.5 at home against the Bills. Again, if I'm a betting man, I'm taking the Bills and the points. Maybe even the Bills' money line in this game. That line tells me a lot. Then you got the Denver Broncos, who were the hottest team in football, winning 5 straight. They lost last week. They're playing against the LA Chargers, who are at 5-7. And I said this on Sports Take with Rob Ellis. I think he may be the worst coach in the NFL, Brandon Staley in LA with the Chargers. They got a lot of talent on both sides of the football, and you watch some Chargers games, and he just makes ridiculous decisions. I think he loses football games for that team. And if you follow me, I talk a lot about I think players need to execute better. I think coaches get blamed far too often. But I think if you watch Chargers games, their coaches losing them football games, not their players. So that's it. That's the NFL slate before the big game on Sunday night between our Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. And when we get back from the break, I want to do a deep dive into this Cowboys game, this Eagles matchup, in what I think is a must-win for our Philadelphia Eagles. I'll give you guys my prediction. I'll get your prediction. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back in to the Philly Sports Power Hour on this Football Friday for Cowboys Week. Here we go. Can't stand that, man. I've said it before, and we got to hear it all Sunday night. Here we go. So that defense better show up to shut up Dak Prescott with that. Here we go. But I said it on Birds 365. I've said it earlier on this show, and I said it this week. This is a must-win game for the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion. And I'm not only talking about the standings. I know they could still backdoor their way into an NFC East championship. They may even be able to get the number 1 seed if they lose this football game. But for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, that's trying to go back to the Super Bowl after losing it last season, after getting absolutely dominated on Sunday and embarrassed on both sides of the football, embarrassed from not only a player perspective, but from a coaching perspective, this is a must-win game. This is a game where we will learn what we have in this Philadelphia Eagles team. We've debated it all season long, even though they kept winning. How good is this team? They haven't dominated anybody. They're not doing well on third down. Oh, the offense isn't good in the red zone. Now the offense is good in the red zone. Well, now the defense is bad in the red zone. We've been going back and forth. How good is this team? They can't run the football. They can stop the run. No, they can't stop the run. All these things when you look at the stats and you look at the numbers. But we are going to learn what we have with this Philadelphia Eagles team on Sunday with how they respond to the ass kicking they just took at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. And it would have been a lot easier if this was a bounce-back game against a weak opponent or even an opponent at home at Lincoln Financial Field. But this Philadelphia Eagles team finds themselves in a really tough spot, going on the road against a team that we all hate, but you have to admit has a good team this season, has a team that has been unbelievable in Dallas this year. And that is not an exaggeration. They have been absolutely unbelievable at home, this Dallas Cowboys team. But this is where we learn what we have with this Philadelphia Eagles team. Should we be excited as fans that this is a team that is going to repeat to go back to a Super Bowl this year? Big week, guys. A really big week. And I don't think I'm over-exaggerating the ramifications of this football game. And I talk about for their psyche and for how they respond, but it is important for the standings. Not only for the NFC and the number 1 seed battling with the San Francisco 49ers. You lose this football game, you're tied with the Dallas Cowboys. And you got another tough road game coming up next week in Seattle. We'll break that down next week. I think the Eagles can win that game, but Seattle is not an easy place to play. This season can take a turn real fast if this team doesn't show up on Sunday night. As great as the first 11 weeks were, sitting there at 10-1, if this Eagles team doesn't come to play on Sunday night in Dallas, this season can take a turn real quickly. So let's get into that game. Let's talk about the matchups. But before we do, let's just take a look at the updated injury report coming out from the Eagles. And I don't know if this is something to be concerned about or not. But Darius Slay did not practice again. And The designation they're giving him is rest/knee. And I don't know how much of this is simply rest or how much of it is, in fact, that he has a knee injury. Because say what you will about Darius Slay and the way he played last week against the San Francisco 49ers, for this team to go anywhere this season, for this team to have a shot against the Dallas Cowboys, we need Darius Slay. We need James Bradbury. We need Reed Blankenship. We need Kevin Byard. We need Bradley Roby. We need all of these guys playing at a very high level. So let's just hope it is, in fact, rest and not that there's anything going on with Big Play Slay, as he likes to call himself. You also have Julio Jones, who did not practice with a groin. Again, I don't know how big of a deal that is, if he's actually going to play, if they're just resting him. He hasn't made a huge impact this season, but we know when Julio is called upon to make a catch in a big moment, he's probably going to come through. And the unfortunate thing is, if no Julio Jones, that means more Quez Watkins. And if you follow me, you know I'm not a big Quez Watkins fan. I'd rather see them give those reps to Olamide Zaccheaus. But the big one for me is Darius Slay. The other big one is, does Zach Cunningham play this week? Looks like everything is trending towards him playing on Sunday night. Missed last week with a hamstring injury. Always makes me nervous with the hamstring, because even though guys say they can play and they may even attempt to play, you never know. One misstep and they aggravate that hammy. That's something that can linger for a while. So let's hope that Zach Cunningham is ready, because just like we need our secondary, we need our linebackers to play a hell of a lot better on Sunday, and that is an understatement. So let's hope Zach Cunningham's healthy, and let's hope Shaq Leonard is able to play. Really excited to see what do we have at that linebacker position now with Cunningham and Leonard. And then on the offensive side of the ball, some really good news, Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert has such big ramifications across the board for that offense. You can't overstate how important Dallas Goedert is for that offense. Not only in the passing game, but more importantly in the running game. One of the best run blockers from the tight end position. And I know Jack Stoll can block as well from the tight end position. He's not as good of a run blocker as Dallas Goedert is, but he is a decent run blocker. But the difference is, when Jack Stoll's in the game, you're not worried about him as a pass-catching threat like you are when Dallas Goedert's in the game. So even if Jack Stoll could block as well as Dallas Goedert, he can't, but even if he could, because he's a decent run blocker, the fact that Dallas Goedert also is a threat as a pass catcher changes the way defenses have to approach an offense where Dallas Goedert's on the field. So that is a huge player to get back in this football game, is Dallas Goedert. Let's hope he's healthy. Let's hope he can make some big plays in the pass catching game as well. But more importantly, just want to see him as a run blocker. And then Fletcher Cox didn't look like he was in danger of missing this game, but was a limited participant earlier in the week. He's a full participant now. And then just to round out some housekeeping items, Christian Ellis was claimed by the New England Patriots. Not sure if you guys saw that or not. I think that was probably a surprise to this Philadelphia Eagles team. Not that Christian Ellis did a great job at linebacker, but he was one of your better special teams players the last 2 seasons. And I think that the Philadelphia Eagles really thought they were going to be able to get him through waivers, re-sign him to the practice squad, and then they would have been able to elevate him for 3 games from that practice squad. So he gets claimed by the New England Patriots, man. And if you're Christian Ellis, think about that. You go from the Philadelphia Eagles, #1 seed in the NFC, real shot at maybe going to another Super Bowl, on a team that, from all accounts, players love playing for Nick Sirianni. They love being a part of this Eagles organization. And now you go to the New England Patriots, who are sitting there at 3-10 with Bill Belichick and Patriot Way. Just want to send my condolences to Christian Ellis, because, my God, waking up the next day, that must have been tough. You just started your first game ever for the Philadelphia Eagles. You're at an all-time high. And now it's congratulations. You've been claimed by the 3-10 New England Patriots. And this is Bill Belichick, who we don't even know if he's going to be back next season. And I know Ellis is only for the remainder of the year, but what a 48 hours for Christian Ellis. I feel bad for you, my man. I feel bad, but good luck. But let's move on to this Cowboys game. Look, I can't stand the Cowboys. You know that. I know you guys can't stand the Cowboys. But you do have to give credit where credit is due, and they have been absolutely lights out at home this season. And I gave you guys some of these stats yesterday. We know they've won 14 straight. They've won all 6 at home this year. And I know we want to look at who they've played. I agree. They have not played a lot of good teams this season, and they certainly have not played any good teams at home this season. And that's why these numbers are skewed as much as they are. But make no mistake, this is a good Dallas offense. You saw it in Philadelphia when they let CeeDee Lamb have 11 damn catches for 191 yards. So let's just take a look at this Dallas offense for a second, because they have been really good this season. They're top 5 in the NFL in yards. They're the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. Top 3 in passing. They don't give up a lot of sacks. They don't turn the ball over a lot. Top 3 in the league in turnovers. Number 2 in the league on third down. So what do the Philadelphia Eagles need to do? Because the Philadelphia Eagles defense, as we have talked about ad nauseum here this week, have not been good. The Eagles defense hasn't been good across the board this year. I know they stopped the run well. Not the last 3 weeks they haven't. So what does this Eagles defense, who's in the bottom of the NFL in yards, in passing yards, in third down, in red zone, in takeaways, in the bottom third of the NFL, in every category I just mentioned, what do they need to do this weekend against this Dallas Cowboys offense to try to slow them down? And I know we love to talk about pressure, getting pressure on the quarterback. Absolutely. That's an obvious one. But what this defensive line needs to make sure they do, and it's something the 49ers did so well against the Philadelphia Eagles last week, is that the defensive line needs to remain disciplined. I know we want to get after Dak Prescott, but you have to maintain your lanes. And our defensive ends, and I'm talking to Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick and Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham, you cannot allow Dak Prescott to get outside of the pocket. When you are rushing the quarterback on Sunday night, do not allow him to get outside of you. You need to be disciplined. You need to maintain that edge, because Dak Prescott has been the best quarterback in the NFL outside the pocket this season in terms of completion percentage, and he's the number 2 passer rating in the NFL outside the pocket. So far this season, Dak Prescott has a 69.4% completion rate outside the pocket. He's thrown 43 passes. He's completed 43 passes on 62 attempts, has 3 touchdowns and a passer rating of 115.2. There's only one quarterback in the league that has a better passer rating outside the pocket than Dak Prescott, and that's Lamar Jackson. So, yes, we want to get pressure on Sunday night. Eagles sacked him 5 times in the last game, but they better be disciplined. If I see these edge rushers dip inside and Dak Prescott go outside, I may throw something at the damn television, because it's obvious the way to beat this team. Stay disciplined and get interior pressure on him. Edge rushers, keep him in the pocket. Interior pass rushers, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and even BG. Throw them inside in your NASCAR package on passing downs. Get interior pressure on Dak. Keep him in the pocket. That's the way to beat him. And when you're looking at our back seven that has struggled this season, take CeeDee Lamb out of this football game. Make someone else beat you on Sunday night. Don't let it be CeeDee Lamb. They have other weapons. Jake Ferguson is a very good tight end, not taking anything away from him. But he doesn't have that explosive playmaking ability that you're going to get from a guy like CeeDee Lamb. So do what you have to do to take CeeDee Lamb out of this football game and force them to go elsewhere. I'm not scared of Michael Gallup. I'm not scared of Brandon Cooks. They can make plays. I'm not saying these guys can't make plays, but they're not CeeDee Lamb. They're not on the level of a CeeDee Lamb. So if I'm Sean Desai, I'm preaching to my defense. Defensive line, maintain your lanes, keep Prescott in the pocket, and then I'm rolling help to CeeDee Lamb. I'm bracketing him. I'm making sure he cannot beat us. And that's going to be up to everybody else to shut down the rest of these guys on that Dallas offense. But we'll see what happens, man, because 11 catches for 191 last week, you can't do that. You cannot do that. And if you guys follow me, you follow me on Instagram, you know there's really 3 areas to every game that I like to look at that I think are very telling, that when a game ends, you look at these 3 categories, and it usually will tell you who wins the game. The Eagles have gotten by losing in some of these categories and still winning this season, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to tell you who won the football game. And those 3 areas are turnovers, third down efficiency, and red zone efficiency. Turnovers is an obvious one. And that has been a problem for this Philadelphia Eagles team all season. Too many turnovers on offense, not enough takeaways on defense. Philadelphia Eagles have a -2 turnover differential this season. That puts them at 18th in the NFL. You go to the other side, to the Dallas Cowboys, they're a +8. Number 4 in the league. So this Eagles team better protect the football this week. And you look at that Week 9 matchup, no turnovers by the Philadelphia Eagles. They put the ball on the ground a couple times. They got away with it. You cannot afford to turn the ball over against this Dallas Cowboys team. So that's number 1, turnovers. Number 2, third down. We say it every week. Good teams extend drives on third down on offense. They get off the field on third down on defense. And it's something this Philadelphia Eagles defense is worse than any other team in the NFL. Getting off the field on third down. That better change on Sunday night. Because if they don't win on third down, they will not win this football game. Both offenses are good on third down. Eagles offense has been really good on third down. Top 3 in the NFL. Number 3. The problem? The Dallas Cowboys are number 2. They've been a little bit better on third down offense. But we know what both offenses can do on third down. This is going to come down to what can our third down defenses do? Because the Eagles are 32nd in the league. Dallas is top 10. So that's a battle to look out for. Who wins on third down on Sunday night? And then last, my third key to every game, red zone. You got to score touchdowns in the red zone, and we saw it on full display to start that San Francisco 49ers game. Eagles drive right down the field, but they go 0 for 2 to start that game. Changed everything. Well, the Eagles offense has been good in the red zone, top 10 at number 9. Surprisingly, the Dallas Cowboys have not been that good in the red zone. This is an area where maybe the Philadelphia Eagles have the advantage. They're 17th in the league in the red zone for as good as the offense has been. And the crazy thing is they've been in the red zone more than any team in the NFL. Dallas Cowboys have more red zone opportunities than any other team in the NFL. And the Philadelphia Eagles won the red zone battle in week 9. Another reason why they were able to win that football game. They held them to 60%. Philadelphia Eagles went 100% in week 9. But you're dealing with two pretty bad red zone defenses. Eagles are 29th. Cowboys are 23rd. So this is it, man. Those are the three areas. If the Eagles can get off the field on third down and they can hold this Dallas offense that hasn't been that great in the red zone to field goals instead of touchdowns, they will win this damn game. And just looking at some of these matchups before I give you my prediction. Deron Bland, you better watch out for him. 8 interceptions, 5 returned for touchdown, NFL record. Leads the NFL in interceptions with 8. But when I say you better look out for him, you better also take advantage of him. Because we saw what the Seattle Seahawks did to Deron Bland. Now, you got to protect the football. You better know he's a ball hawk who's going to take his chances. And I said it yesterday, use his aggressiveness against him. Seattle targeted him 12 times. He gave up 8 catches, 169 yards. 2 touchdowns. But he did get that pick. Protect the football. And you know who had the most success against him in that Seattle game? DK Metcalf. On 4 targets, had 3 catches, 108 yards, 58 yards after catch, 2 touchdowns. Who reminds you of DK Metcalf a little bit? Who's a big-bodied physical receiver similar to DK? Number 11 on the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown. I expect A.J. Brown to have a big game, and I'm going right after Deron Bland with A.J. Brown. But more importantly, and we got to get serious here for a second. We heard all the right things this week from Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni regarding the running game. They said all the right things. And I think that I was someone who was screaming about this running game a lot earlier than most, that there was a problem. I've been talking about it on this show and my other show, Legal Hands to the Face, for a while now, about how we were seeing the yards per carry drop, and that I thought a lot of that had to do with the fact that Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni were not getting their running backs and their offensive line into any rhythm early. Please, Nick, Brian, you said all the right things this week. We now need to see you go out there and do it. You have to stay committed to the run against this Dallas Cowboys defense. You cannot drop back 50 times in this football game and be so one-dimensional that you make things easy on that Dallas defense. And if you look at what they did in week 9, they did stay committed to the run. They gave DeAndre Swift 18 carries in that game, 9 in the first half, 9 in the second half. And it shouldn't be a surprise, they won the football game. Please stay balanced this week. And if I'm Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson and Jeff Stoutland, I'm saying to my offensive line, we're riding you guys this week. We're putting it on your shoulders this week. You're the best offensive line in the NFL. Go out there on Sunday night and play like it, and let's win this damn football game. Run the football. Stay balanced. Not saying abandon the throw, but stay balanced. Keep your defense guessing. Don't let the Dallas Cowboys pin their ears back knowing that they're coming after you every single time on pass plays. And then here's a novel concept. Your defense struggles. You're going up against one of the best offenses in the league. Run the football. Win the time of possession battle. Keep Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson and the rest of that high-powered Cowboys offense on the damn bench. I'm begging you. We're begging you. You got fans coming to NovaCare Complex at 7:30 in the damn morning begging you. I have faith in these guys. I think you're going to see a great game plan by Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson. And guys, we are running out of time. I appreciate all of you in the chat. I see you. I love the engagement. Hit that like button. Let's get into our prediction. I want your guys' predictions. I'm going to give you my prediction because you just heard me begging Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. And I really, truly believe that what they said to the media this week, that they are going to put into practice on Sunday night. I do think you're going to see a more balanced attack. I do think you're going to see a team that got completely embarrassed bounce back in a huge way. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles don't lose back-to-back football games. There's enough veteran leadership on this team that this team will be ready to play on Sunday night. And we're going to learn a lot about them. We're going to learn on Sunday night, is this a team that we should be fired up about that's going to go back to another Super Bowl? And I think on Monday, when we come back here on this show, the Philly Sports Power Hour, we're going to be talking about a big win, a balanced attack on offense. And I think that defense is going to show up and surprise a lot of people. Darius Slay was called out. That secondary was called out. I think they're going to be ready to play. And I think, and I pray, Zach Cunningham, Shaq Leonard are going to show us a little bit. They may make some mistakes. Shaq Leonard's been here less than a week, but I think they're going to get us a little bit hopeful for what the future looks like. And I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning this football game in Dallas, 31-24, and all but sewing up that NFC East. And I see you guys in the chat. Let me get some of your predictions. We got M. Reyes. Wow. Cowboys lose 42-14. Eagles fan, 31-27 Eagles. Jim G, 34-31 Birds. Twiz, 38-21 statement game. I agree with you, man. I think this is a statement game for these damn Eagles, and especially for Jalen Hurts. You got people in the national media talking about benching Hurts for Mariota. Get the hell out of here. I think Hurts shows up in a big way and shows everybody why he's that guy. Chuck Hutton, 27-24 Eagles. What else we got? Bobby Murphy, 34-31 Eagles. 102-0 Wine Niners Wine says, the Birds. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, guys, be sure to have a great weekend. Check out the JAKIB Sports Game Day shows right here on the JAKIB Sports Network on Sunday. You'll have me, Farzy, Seth Joyner, Mike Missinelli, Kayla Santiago, John McMullen. All-star cast. All-star cast. Getting you ready for the game. Doing halftime, doing postgame. So be sure to be subscribed to JAKIB Sports. And check me out on Twitter at Bill Colarulo. I need some backup, man. I got all these 49ers fans trolling me on Twitter. Let me get some of my Power Hour crew. Get over to Twitter at Bill Colarulo. Give me some support, man. I'm getting abused by these Niners fans over there. And check me out on Instagram at Legal Hands to the Face. Real quick, guys, because we're running out of time, like we end every show with a little Today in Sports History. December 8th, 1940, the NFL championship between the Chicago Bears and the Washington Redskins was not only the first NFL title game broadcast on national radio, it is still the most lopsided victory in NFL history. Chicago Bears beat the Redskins 73-0 in an NFL championship game. December 8th, 1940, still the most one-sided victory in NFL history. Maybe we'll see that on Sunday night from our Philadelphia Eagles. But hit that like button, hit that share button. Everyone have a great, great weekend. I will see you right here, Eagles Game Day, for the JAKIB Sports Game Day shows. And as always, go Birds.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.